You're listening to Me and Paranormal You with your host, Ryan Singer. It's more fun to believe. Third year bonus.
Is it a bonus?
It's a bonus. It is a bonus, in fact. I have no idea who that was. Someone came in and chimed in. They're thinking, asking if it's a bonus? It is a bonus. It's a British invasion.
Is it a bonus?
It is a bonus. It's a 30-year bonus. What does that mean? It means it's an additional episode during the week. Usually there's supposed to be 2. I took off last week. My apologies. Are these dulcet tones? What is the definition of dulcet? Anyway, I got to tell you, this is Ryan Singer. That's what I got to tell you. Good night, Chicago. I don't know why I do that. I love saying good night, Chicago like that. It's just one of the favorite things. I do that on stage sometimes at the end of a set in different cities. I could be in Omaha and be like, good night, Chicago. It's just fun to say, good night, Chicago. Try it. It doesn't matter if you're at work wearing headphones. Just yell, good night, Chicago. And you're going to feel good inside. It's going to warm you up. It's going to make you feel nice. I feel very nice because I said it about 7 times. Thank you for listening to Me and Paranormal You. This is the podcast where we explore the paranormal, the supernatural, the mystical, the esoteric, the hidden societies, the secret societies, and just the strange, high strangeness. And, sometimes people pop in and I don't know who they are. I can't remember their names. But sometimes, I remember Todd. Todd has been, long-time caller, first-time listener, it turns out. Never listened, but calls in all the time. I mean, long-time listener, first caller. Can you believe it? Can you believe how silly Todd is? He's just silly. If you don't know who Todd is, something tells me he's going to pop in tonight. I am exhausted, which means I'm going to be on one here tonight. I am exhausted. I am wiped out in the possibly best way, in the best possible way. I think I'm ZipRecruiting my job, my words. I used to know the word for that, metathesizing my words potentially. Anyway, so here's what happens. I get back at 3:15 in the morning today from Florida, a week-long expedition, Monday through Sunday. We do 7 days, and oh mio mio, here comes Miss Ohio. That's a great song. Anyway, I don't know where to begin to tell you. If you are a patron, patreon.com/Ryan Singer. Shout out to the patrons. Thank you so much for your continued support. You help fund the paranormal expeditions where I'm renting campsites for the other investigators. I'm providing, or I'm buying equipment, just travel expenses, things like that. Me amongst other people, not just me, right? So anyway, a week-long paranormal investigation of the place in Florida. If you don't know what the place in Florida means because you're new to the podcast, the Mindcast, I've been calling it a Mindcast I missed the 10-year anniversary. That's how wrapped up in the investigation I was that I forgot to even take 2 minutes to post on social media, which if you know me, I'm not, social media doesn't have its claws in me necessarily as deep as maybe they did at the very, very beginning of social media. And I think that's a good thing, at least for me. That's the way I choose to live. But no judgment if you live your life differently than me. At least I do my darndest not to judge. So here's what happens. I don't even mention the 10-year anniversary on January 31st of 2024. We have been doing this podcast for 10 years. And some of you are like, well, why is this the first episode I'm listening to? I've never heard of it. Because you were supposed to find it now, my friend. This is the moment in time when you were supposed to find this. That's right, man. He was supposed to find it right now, man. And that's why you did, man. Synchronicity, man. Thank you, Todd. Todd, you summarized it perfectly for me. Thank you. So I'm wiped out. Why? Because I'm averaging maybe 4.5, 5 hours of sleep if I'm lucky. Sleeping down there in Florida at one of the most active paranormal locations you could ever hope to visit. We had things happening every day that would have been excellent if the culmination of one day's event was the entirety of the week we were there. You would have been like, this was a successful expedition and investigation. We have gathered and experienced so much that this was a success. And that was happening every day. And so not a lot of sleep to be had because the mind's racing. I'm trying to keep track of everything that we're planning on doing, I'm trying to keep organized. And organization is not my strength. It's not my strength of strengths. I'm doing better than I did 15 years ago when it comes to organization, but it's not one of my hallmarks. People don't think Ryan Singer and then think, he's very organized. That's not what they think. They think lots of things probably. And I probably don't want to know the answer on a lot of them, like, oh, he likes milkshakes too much. Well, that's fair if you think that. I think I like milkshakes just the right amount. Thank you very much. Okay. Who am I arguing with? Do you do that? You argue with imaginary people in your mind, and it's just like, why are they so mean? So, nothing good ever happens in the future in my brain. I'm trying to change that. I'm trying to get that guy, that H, out of here. Get out of here, guy. You ain't got no place here. The future's bright. Let's do it. Okay, so good night, Chicago. Okay, so I want to tell you about this. Even though I'm clearly I'm delirious, I'm feeling pretty wacky, which means I'm on a one. I'm on one. And what does on one mean? You might be asking, what does your on one mean? You know what it means. It means I'm wild, I'm loose, I'm shooting from the hip. Who knows what's going to happen? I might not even mention anything of serious import. But that's just the nature of this program. I do stand-up comedy for a living. If you're coming here for, a deeply dark and ominously toned expose on paranormal events, I apologize. This is not the show for you. But just hang in there until we get to some of the commercials so I can at least, make 1/10 of a penny for my trouble, if you don't mind, friend. Okay, so I want to get into what happened this past week in Florida. I'm going to give you the highlights from the best of my memory. My buddy Jim Perry and I were having a good conversation as I drove. I made the drive from Florida to Ohio in one day, because I'm on one, you know what I mean? I'm like, I'm not sleeping, you know what I mean? So I made about 775 miles. I just, that's nothing for this old road dog. So, when you drive too long and you get out of your car and you're like, everything's still moving. Everything's still moving. What? Nothing will stop ever moving. And the planet's moving and we're moving through space and we're spinning and on an axis, et cetera, et cetera. How do I just not have to take Dramamine every 4 hours, every day of the rest of my life? I'm going to give you the highlights of the expedition, the investigation. And all I can say is, in summation, at the beginning, I like to summarize before. How about I just, tease you with the chapters? Each day was different. Each day was unique. We had almost every kind of experience in the paranormal spectrum you could hope for. We get there, and day one, I'm going to be honest with you, day one was an unload day, settle in, get comfy. Most of the investigators, I think I was, along with Ed Brown, my buddy Ed Brown, we were the only ones who knew the family. So everybody else was new to the property, and so I was like, we need a day, let's all... And, people trickled in the first 2 days anyway, so it didn't all happen at once. But you need a day to settle into a place and get comfortable and meet everybody and, because you're going to be in their home, so you want to feel comfortable. I mean, I just can't say enough good stuff about Bill and Carolyn. I mean, they let us degenerates in their house for a week straight. And you would have thought we were at the Ritz-Carlton with the meals that they were preparing and providing, and they refuse to let you feed yourself. They insist. It's that Southern hospitality. You just can't beat it. The best people. The best people. So we get there, and so Ed Brown, Matthew Jackson, he's been on the show. Check out the past episodes. We get to this location in Florida where, if you're new to this program, that's what I was saying. If you're new to this program, 5 years ago, I was introduced to this place through Ed Brown. He brought me on a trip he had organized. And I had one of the most terrifying experiences. I don't know. I guess I can't say one of the. I had the most terrifying experience I've ever had in my life. I'll talk to him in a couple of days, actually. I still talk to a therapist nearly on a weekly basis that I sought out after this experience. After returning home to Los Angeles, I needed help because I didn't seek help immediately, but I'm an idiot like that, but I should have, because I slept with my lights on for a year in my apartment because of the experience I had. And so I still talk to that guy because therapy's great and it's very helpful. So anyway, that's this location. You can go back and you can listen to, I think it's 30 or bonus 73 or something like that. Wow. I mean, this is like, we're in the close to 300s now. So you can go back and listen to that. And it's called My Encounter with a Sasquatch, I believe is what I had titled it. You can go back and listen to that. And it's pretty fresh after I return. You'll hear the harrowing details of my experience and everything else. So I go back there. And I've been back to this property 3 other times, I believe, if not 4, leading up to this investigation, but never doing paranormal investigation. That's a key component here. This is the first time I'm going back to the property, and I will be outside at night looking for it. And by it, I mean mostly creature features. We're talking Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Oma. We're talking other cryptids. We're talking outside portals, interdimensional beings, UFOs, orbs, balls of light, etc. Possibly Dogman. Oh, don't want to see him. So, I'm pushing my comfort zone. I have chosen to, along with the guidance of a licensed psychiatrist, chosen to push myself out of my comfort zone and confront fear head on. I'm not saying I'm brave, okay? I'm so brave. But I'm not saying I'm so brave, right? We all have to do this, and we all do this in our lives on a regular basis to some degree. I'm no different than you, and you're no different than me. It's we, baby. So we have to push ourselves outside of comfort zones if we seek growth and if we seek healing. And I can be stubborn about that sometimes and be like, I don't need to grow no more. I'm all grown up. And it's like, okay, you're all grown up? Yeah, I'm all grown up. I don't need me no more growings. You don't need no more. You don't need yourself no more growings? No, I don't need myself no more growings. I'm all grown up. I'm as good as I need to be. Okay, I don't know who this guy is, but you're actually growing on me. You get it? Okay, you got me there. So here we go. Good night, Chicago. Okay, I got it in. It's like I don't know if it's a tick, but sometimes I have to say it. Okay, so once I pop, I just can't stop. So we have to push ourselves out of our comfort zones for growth and for healing, and not to mention curiosity. Curiosity is a very compelling force of nature, and my curiosity and my desire to know the unknown trumps everything else in my life when it comes to what I might be afraid of. So I know I will confront it eventually. It's just a question of when. You're probably the same way. Although some of you might be a little more bold in action, and it doesn't take you as long. I mean, it took me 5 years to do an expedition there again, or an investigation, so that's not a short amount of time, but it's not a long amount of time either. So we get there on the first day, and I want to show Matthew Jackson around the property, and this time, Hurricane Michael hasn't freshly devastated the area. So now all of their trails, their walking trails, have been reopened and cleared on the 30 acres of wooded property. And I've been through these trails previously on my last trip during the daytime. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous out there. So I have been confronting the fear in baby steps. So we take Matthew Jackson, Ed Brown, and I, and Ed hadn't seen the trails either, or maybe he had previously, because he was there before Hurricane Michael, where they were making a movie or something. Nonetheless, we go out there and we're just having a good time, and it's beautiful, it's gorgeous. They're getting to know each other in person, and then things start popping off immediately. Things start popping off. We have a creature that is very clearly heavy, an animal or a creature, whatever it is, in broad daylight, kind of right next to us off the trails downhill in very thick woods, to where we were hooting and hollering, and it was not running away from us. It was actually circling us or moving back and forth between us, to the point where Ed thinks he sees a Head and Shoulders through the woods. I run down there. I got a camera. I can't see it. Then I think I see it. Ed had run down before us. This is kind of funny. So Matthew and I are behind him on the trail. He's down, and then he looks at me. He goes, "Hey," and then he points into the woods directly where this really heavy footstep noise is coming from. Not more than 20, 25 yards away from us, maybe 30 yards, but through really thick wooded area. You can't see very far in front of you, even in the daytime. And I go, "Oh, you want me to go into the woods after it?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I hand Matthew my tripod with my cell phone on it, and I go, "I'm not fucking doing that. Here you go." So Matt goes in. And then as Matt's going in, I hear Ed go, "I see it. So I start yelling at Matt, throw me. I need the camera." And he's trying to come back out to give it to. I go, "Just throw the tripod." He throws the tripod. I catch it in a seamless baton toss. And I run down the trail thinking I'm going to see, that I will have my first eyewitness experience of seeing a Sasquatch. I was so nervous and so excited simultaneously. It's hard to even really explain. My heart was beating out of my chest as I searched through the heavy foliage, trying to catch a glimpse of the unglimpsable creature that is Sasquatch. And boy, oh boy, I didn't see it. Thought I did for a second. Later, we're reviewing the footage. And this is where what was later deemed as Ryan moments during the expedition by Bill, the husband who lives there, which brought down the house, by the way, in a very funny way, and myself included. I'm reviewing footage, and I still haven't thoroughly reviewed all of it. And I swear to God, I see an arm, a hairy, dark arm, covered in hair, slightly move, like as if it did a half, like it did a glide half step behind a tree, because it realized it was being caught on camera. And holy moly. Now, is this definitive proof of the existence of the elusive Oma? An arm? No. Right. But I think I've got it. I think I've captured Bigfoot on film. After about 10 minutes of trying to slow down or trying to rearrange or zoom in, I realized it was an optical illusion, and I was crestfallen. I was crestfallen in a way that I've never been when it comes to thinking you've captured something on film and realizing that, in fact, it's nothing. I am very, very happy that I was able to debunk it before putting it out in the world and being like, "Look at this. This is Bigfoot's arm." I'm very, very happy about that part. But that was like we had been to the property for not even 2 hours, and all this is happening. And there's more that happened that first day and that first night. But there's just too much in 7 days to tell you every single thing. So I'm going to keep moving along, okay? I'm going to go to some of maybe the greatest hits. Now, I also have to let you know that we were filming almost everything the entire time to the best of our ability. And this footage will be used in a future documentary. This investigation is not over. It has just begun, it feels like. So, is the documentary coming out anytime soon? Don't hold your breath, because we have to go back, and we will be returning. And it's just not. It's not to mention other things need to be filmed for it. This is the beginnings of the collection period of this investigation and footage for a documentary that I think I'm just going to call One Portal at a Time, because this place is bonkers, and I'll tell you more about that later. So we're going to move on to, further on. Late that night, around 3:30 in the morning, Eric Connor arrives, and I am over at a campsite not too far away from where the property is, waiting there for him. He and I were going to sleep in a motorhome, an RV that was loaned to us from the family, one of Carolyn's family members. This is a beautiful RV. I was just like, oh my God, this is living right here. This is living. You know what I mean? Yeah, man. I've always been into it, man. The idea you just walk out your door, man, feet away from where your bed is, and you're there, man. You're surrounded by nature, and it's just really cool, man. Yeah, I agree with you, Todd. I'm glad. I mean, I could cry thinking about it, man. I know, Todd. You're really connected. You're connected to your empathy and also to nature, and I think we appreciate that. And all the listeners do too, Todd. So we love you. We just want to let you know that, buddy. Thanks, man. You just don't hear it that often. I know, Todd. And this isn't a time for you and me to have an emotional moment, because I got to tell details of this investigation. Okay, man. I'm just going to let you get that going, man. I'll just be over here, man, drawing pictures of different shaped hearts. Okay, Todd. That actually sounds very beautiful and like a therapeutic, meditative exercise. So, okay. You get back to drawing your hearts. So I'm going to talk about potential paranormal evidence that was collected and found. So here's the overview of a situation that I want to do on this property. I want to have digital recorders, 6 of them, spread out all over this property, 3 of them triangulated, 3 of them triangulated. So 2 sets of digital recorders recording, all kind of facing each other, like 2 sets of basically 2 triangles on the property, trying to cover stuff that could be happening while we sleep. Because as you know from my previous expedition there 5 years ago, especially if you're a patron, you've heard the audio. And if you're a patron and don't know about this, you can go back through the Patreon page and you can search and find this post of the crazy wood knocks audio that is about 2.5 minutes long. Sustained wood knocking in a way while I slept inside the sugar shack, right outside the walls of this little shack where I was sleeping with Ed Brown. Anyway, so I want these digital recorders everywhere on the property. We do walkabout on that very first day, Ed Brown, Matt Jackson, and I, because we want to identify 3 good locations out in the woods on the trails, separate from the 3 we'd already designated that we wanted to do by the house, by the sugar shack, and by a portal. So we find the other 3. And so later that night, we're going to put out, or actually the next night, because the digital recorders didn't arrive. I had digital recorders ordered and they were delayed in shipping or something. So they showed up on Tuesday. So Tuesday night, we get all 6 of those bad boys out. I'm pretty sure it's on Tuesday night. Anyway, the point is, on Wednesday, we go collect. And, downloading, for whatever reason, these digital recorders take forever to offload their data. It was confounding. But so I haven't had time to really review any of the audio during the trip while we're doing things, right? Because I'm the guy who's just kind of, trying to keep everything on schedule, and I'm just done. I'm unloading digital recorders. I'm getting airdrops of videos and footage. I'm unloading memory cards from cameras. That's what we're doing in like the mornings, right? Plus some other stuff, getting out in the woods and things like that. So we put them back out before sundown each night. There's a den structure that we came upon that very first walkabout on the day one, on Monday. A very small den structure. I don't think it's a Bigfoot structure. I think it's just too small. But nonetheless, it's an interesting structure. Like, I wouldn't even fit in there comfortably at 6 foot, 180 or whatever I am. So we don't think, at least I don't think, it's a Sasquatch structure. And it's on the far edges of the property. So we put a digital recorder there on like a felled tree that's starting to rot a bit outside, right in front of the entrance, what appears to be like an entrance to the structure. So Thursday afternoon, we go out to collect the digital recorders. And, we're going collecting them, picking them up. This one is gone. It's missing. Now, it was out in plain sight. Could it have been picked up by a critter, carried off somewhere thinking it was food, tried to eat it? Of course. Very likely. Probable even, one might say. Would it have been picked up by a crow, like my buddy Gene Caswell seems to think, and then stole it from me to drive me crazy, in a way to taunt me for my past transgressions about stealing a baby squirrel from them one time, or saving a baby squirrel? Possibly, even though I thought I had made my amends with the crows. Could it be buried by a critter who burrows and buries their things like squirrels? The squirrels have it in for me right now. We all know that. Why did I sound like former President Donald Trump just now? Squirrels have it in for me right now. We all know that. We all know that the squirrels are very, very tricky. They don't like me because I'm so popular. Oh, God. Could it have been taken by squirrels and buried? Highly unlikely. I mean, the digital recorder is like 4.5 inches long. I mean, I don't see a squirrel carrying a digital recorder very far. Raccoon or whatever. Raccoons, they got like thumbs. Those little tricky little bastards. Raccoon could have carried it off. Quickly realizing that there's no food there. Nonetheless, we look for it. We search for it. We document it. We are documenting as we walk up to the den, by the way. We're filming it on the way up. So you can see my reaction. And it's not like, oh, shit, it's not there. Let's walk backwards and act like we're just realizing. It's none of that reality TV stuff. I'm actually, the footage you will see, and I think I'm going to post that on Patreon here in the next 24 hours. I'm going to try to find that, and I'm going to post it. There's so much footage I got. But I'm going to post that on Patreon. Patreon.com/Ryan Singer. $3 a month gets you everything for the most part. There's some people at that $11 tier that are going to get some bonus stuff. I might even be putting up uncut videos over there and see if they want to just look through it and see if they can find things. Nonetheless, it is gone. It's just gone. We look around the surrounding area. We look inside the log, under the log, around the log. It's not there. We make a small circle around the den, and nothing to be found. We make a slightly larger circle kind of thing, like a semicircle, because it's really thick woods. You can't make a perfect circle. Anyway, we don't see this digital recorder anywhere. I'm freaking out. This is wild, right? I've never had anything stolen. I've never had a piece of equipment stolen before on an investigation. After a while, we're just like, we just got to keep moving. So we go to the other location, the last location for one of the digital recorders that I had placed on a felled tree that was across the trail, at what I was calling the loop bend, where the trail loop bends. And it's knocked off the tree and the battery's dead. No idea how, no idea why. I tried to recreate the fall. I was banging, I was hitting, I was kicking, I was blowing as hard as I could on the tree, on the recorder, as I put it in the same spot. I couldn't get it to fall. a deer ran through the tree and it knocked it off or something, right? It's very plausible that that happened. I don't think it's anything paranormal necessarily, but it was back to back. Wow, this is weird. This isn't where I put it. And right after, wow, that one's gone. It disappeared. So the next night, we put a digital recorder in the exact same spot at the den structure, and we place a trail cam facing the digital recorder. Now, what's interesting is, potentially interesting, let's say it's a critter who took the one the night before, mistaking it for food. I put another one there, and we put a trail cam, and there is zero movement of any kind. Any kind of animal is nowhere to be seen. Nothing set off the trail cam except a shaky leaf on a branch up to the top of the frame of the shot. No animal walked by at all. I would think that it would walk to a place where it found something, and if it saw something there again, it would take it again. Nothing. So I was hoping it would be gone again. I'm not going to lie to you. I was hoping it would be gone again. I'm going to tell you about why I have hope, why I have actually very optimistic hope that I will get this digital recorder back. I'm going to tell you about that on the other side of this break. And just as a reminder, patrons can get all of these episodes, 30-year bonuses, and the interviews, the experiences, ad-free for $3 a month. Patreon.com/Ryan Singer. And we're back. And I forgot to lube my tube. You know what I mean? Hold on a second. I'm realizing how weird that sounds to those of you who haven't listened to the show before. Lube my voice tube. Take a drink. Get the pipes moistened. So anyway, I'm going to tell you why I'm very optimistic about seeing this digital recorder again. Because things at this property have gone missing for years and then returned to the side door or right in front of a door, one of the doors of the house on the outside. Something that has been missing or lost or gone for upwards of 3 years have been returned neatly or very politely or thoughtfully placed at a doorstep, which is bonkers. I was talking to my mom and she's like, "Do you think someone lives on the property?" And I go, "Yeah, I do. But not a guy, not some guy named Dan. Not Danny out there and just living off the grid in the woods." I mean, it's possible that there's a human being living off there like a homeless person, but guess what? There's no structure for a person. There's no signs. There's no evidence of where they're living. Now, are they very crafty and clean up after themselves very diligently every single day? Do they avoid all of the people that are on that property snooping around looking for Bigfoot all the time? Do they also avoid all the hunters on the neighboring properties that are just, they haven't been developed because people use them for hunting? I don't know, right? I mean, I guess it's not impossible, but I think it's unlikely. So I am optimistic that one day, and I already told Carolyn, I even left her the original box that this particular recorder came in with some tape on it that just marked lost recorder and with the date that it went missing. And I said, when this recorder shows back up, just send me a text, recorder is back, and then I'll call you on speakerphone and film our conversation. Because I can't wait to hear the audio on that digital recorder. Now, if it comes back and the recorder is smashed, bashed, or burned, and then returned, boy, oh boy, do we have a mystery on our hands. Smashed, bashed, and burned before it gets returned. That was a fun sentence to say, even though it was totally by accident that it turned out that way. So we have a missing recorder. We have a large creature not afraid of us like deer. in the brush, heavy, heavy, heavy footsteps. And I'll tell you, by the end of it all, it doesn't even take a full week to be able to start showing discernment between what's moving in the brush close by you. You start to be able to really discern rather quickly the size of an animal between like lizard, bird, armadillo, raccoon, armadillo. I was just calling them armadillos. I mean, armadillos are blind, so they will come close to you because they're blind as a bat practically, right? And there was multiple occasions where we had armadillos walk up on us by this fire pit at the side patio out in the front yard. And, you know, you turn your flashlight on and 6 feet away from you is this armadillo creature. And you're just like, oh my God, hey fella, get out of here. This isn't for you. Don't bring your leprosy or syphilis or whatever it is, leprosy. Don't bring your leprosy over here. Armadillos carry leprosy, so you don't want to touch them. So we have a, heavy creature footsteps that's not afraid of us, that we thought that Ed Brown thought he saw a head and shoulder on some kind of animal through the brush. We have a disappearing, missing digital recorder that we looked for on 3 successive daytime searches, unable to find it. We were doing paranormal investigations at night in the house, around the house, and down in the sugar shack, outside the sugar shack, where there is another suspected portal. Why am I saying that? Well, Matt Jackson did his magic with some ITC devices, and we have reason to believe, and I've reviewed this audio, we have reason to believe that there are anywhere from 5, I think 6, potentially 6 portals on this property. We've got at least 1 portal inside the house, which we've discovered through another paranormal investigation. We have a portal down by the sugar shack, which would make a lot of sense. We have a portal in the backyard down the hill. We have a portal somewhere in the side yard that was potentially created by Carolyn, who lives there. Now, that leaves 2 other portals potentially on this property. And this is where it gets interesting, because you can go back and listen to, 5 years ago, or almost 5 years ago, because I think it was the summer of 2019 when I was out there. So it hasn't been 5 years yet, but portals have been reported at this property for a long time. And I know portal's kind of a hot buzzword right now, but it's interesting. And what we didn't do, and you might be surprised by this because of how much I talk about it on this show if you listen a bunch, is I didn't try to talk to the portal. And I'm over here for I don't know how long, shouting and screaming to people with no real evidence or other than just my intuition telling me that portals are sentient. At least some of them, or at least a good amount of them probably, are sentient, intelligent beings of some kind, these portals, or of some kind, right? So why am I not asking questions to portals? That's a very good question, and I realize it driving back. I'm in Tennessee last night, and I'm like, why didn't I ask the portals questions? And that's a very big oversight on my part. And it's what we'll do next time. I will definitely be asking portals questions. Can you tell us your name, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? What do you like to do on weekends? Do you have a Bumble profile? Things like that. I'll ask the portal very stupid questions, right? So, but no, I'll be interested to try to communicate directly with a portal in the future. And I don't have to wait to go back there to do it, but you get it. So no, I didn't ask the portal questions, if you were wondering. And I think there's probably at least one person I know that would be like, oh, did you ask the portal? And I got to let them know right now, I'm sorry, I did not. And you're right, I should have. You are 100% correct. I should have done that. My apologies. And I'm sure you'll let me know about it. And if you weren't planning on it, you should. You should let me know about it. So we have a bunch of ITC evidence that has identified at least one of the spirits at this house. In 2019, it was mostly and because of just the things that were happening and popping off, it was mostly what I would classify as a cryptozoological investigation. We were, because on the first trip we have Ed Brown caught a thermal image of the head of an animal that looks like a Bigfoot. I think I've posted that image over on Patreon, by the way. I'm pretty sure I have, with an artist rendition who wasn't there, said, hey, can you draw what you think this is? By looking at this thermal image, can you show us what you see in it? And it looks like a gorilla's head almost. I mean, it's crazy. That's caught on a thermal camera, a thermal scope. We had a footprint that was cast that was huge. We found a large den structure. We found there was all kinds of stuff. I was screamed at by some kind of creature in the night. So it turned out to be mostly a cryptozoological investigation. All the things were kind of outside, a giant X formation. Lots of things were happening. And so that's the way that one was. This one, the intent going in was a paranormal investigation. Inside the house, mostly focused inside. We ended up being outside a bunch, but we did a lot of good work inside as well. And we identified one of the spirits pretty convincingly. I don't know if I've ever been on a paranormal investigation where we identified the name of a spirit to the point where I am like, wow, I really believe that. That's who this is. I have been at other places where people say that they've done that and things like that. And I'm going to be honest with you. I've always been a little skeptical of that. When it comes, because I think we all have our areas where you are not having a stroke. My mouth doesn't work right now. We've all been on paranormal investigations if we do these things where someone identifies a spirit there, whether they're psychic or a medium or whatever. And if you know the person, you go with it, and you're like, yeah. And if you don't know the person, sometimes you're like, oh yeah, okay, cool. Let's talk to them. We have an avalanche of repetition and contact from a very particular spirit that we accumulated over the course of this investigation that leads me to believe, without a doubt, that this person is communicating and is hanging out there. And this is a person who was the very first investigator ever at this property. The very first paranormal-ish adjacent investigator to ever go out this property that we are aware of is no longer alive. Died a handful of years ago. I had met them before they passed at my very first trip out there. So I know who this person is. I did not think for a second, it didn't even occur to me that a name that was coming through over and over and over and over again was going to be, it didn't even occur to me. Like I didn't even think, oh, I wonder if it's him. It didn't even occur to me. And then things popped off because we got a last name. And sure enough, full name. Multiple times got first and last name. So someone who has an intimate knowledge of the property and the phenomena there before they died is hanging out there. And it turns out is trying to help the investigation even after physical death. I mean, is that wild or what? And I know some of you might be like, okay, wow, this is wild. I don't know if this is actually, something I can believe in, Ryan. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. But, it's more fun to do so. Isn't it amazing to think that you can have someone on the inside? It's like a mole, like a supernatural spy or a mole working for us here in the physical realm. or here in the material realm from the immaterial realm. Isn't that really cool to think about? I think we all need to get ourselves a BFF ghost to help us with our investigations. That is just something that just has to be done. I mean, it's a premise of it's a great television show premise or a movie premise, and I probably shouldn't be saying it out loud. I should just be working on it and writing it. Anyway, that is really, really cool. What happened? That is the most definitive identification of a spirit I've ever encountered on one of my investigations. And maybe that just means I haven't gotten really good at that, or haven't been on enough investigations where we're really trying to identify someone this is a protracted investigation. It's 7 days. Oftentimes, as investigators, we get to go somewhere for a night. We're lucky if we get 12 to 16 hours in a place, let alone 7 days there. So you get to really get into a lot more. And, I'm very fortunate to be able to do something like that and to have had this experience. So that's not lost on me, that I'm very lucky in that regard. But I've also, I've tried to build a life in such a way and worked towards being able to do this, and having the freedom to do it is, it comes at a certain cost, but we don't have to get into any of that stuff. That's not what this is about. So we have a very clear, in my opinion, the most definitive identification of a up to that point, unknown spirit occupying the home. We've got a missing digital recorder. We've got a large creature out in the woods that possibly had a head and shoulders, according to eyewitness report of of Ed Brown. Ed Brown operates he lives in the world of skepticism. Ed Brown needs a lot to believe in something. And even though he believes all this stuff is possible and he believes in it, when it comes to the evidence, he needs a lot. So he would tell you that we do not have evidence that was a Bigfoot. He would be the first one to say that he believes he saw a head and shoulders, but he would not present it to you. His eyewitness report, he wouldn't present it to you as evidence. That's his perspective from knowing him the way I do. I believe that eyewitness reports and stories and the history of people and the accumulation of stories and eyewitness reports is tantamount to evidence. Tantamount, is that right? Paramount to evidence. It's tantamount to evidence. So anyway, different strokes for different folks. So I think I'm going to do another break here. It's been, almost 20 minutes since the last commercial, and I really feel like I'm not going to shut up in the next 5 minutes. So I'm going to do another commercial break, as required per my contract. If I go over an hour, that's when there's 2 commercial breaks, by the way. I'm letting you peek behind the advertising curtain. If the episode's going to go over an hour, there's going to be multiple commercial breaks. So that's why that happens sometimes and doesn't other times. So just so you know. So we'll be right back. Patreon.com/Ryan Singer. $3 a month gets you no ads. Isn't that great? And also, you could do $150 a month if you really wanted. There's no cap. There's no salary cap over what you're allowed to contribute on a monthly basis if you enjoy the program. And make sure you share the show with people. That would be great. Rate, review, and share the show. We're going to take a quick break. I'm going to lube the voice tubes, and we'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. We're all back. Todd's over there drawing hearts. I'm over here giving you the highlights of me trying to wrap my brain around everything that just happened this week, and it's impossible to do it at this point. I've had kind of a decompression day to the best of my ability. I had to go to the grocery store and just buy a bunch of fruit and vegetables and just try to, I can't even remember everything that happened. So, because, the last night we were truly, going in hard on the investigation side of things, it was the craziest day. It was the craziest of all. And so I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. Matthew Jackson spent a night in the Sugar Shack, heard a grunt or something right outside the walls of the Sugar Shack. I believe he has audio of that. I haven't had a chance to go through any of the files that he's been Dropboxing me. Eric Connor spent a night in the Sugar Shack and he also did a solo investigation down there for his live stream. If you're not following Epic Paranormal on TikTok, you're missing out. He does like 3 solo investigation live streams a week. It's just bonkers. So go give a follow over there and let him know Singer sent you in the comments. So he was told by his gateway device to go get out here. So he goes out on the front porch and then like some bird type bat, large bird bat thing flies right at him. Just insane stuff. And right outside the Sugar Shack, there's a fence. And that's where I had my experience in 2019. And we believe there's a portal down there. On security camera, earlier, one of the first nights we were there, we were watching the security camera for some reason. I'm not sure why. Something very low to the ground, like a snake or something, even though it's too cold for snakes to be out and about, because it was getting into the 30s, the high 30s or mid 30s overnight. It was very cold at night down there. Snakes don't come hang out when it's freezing. Something was like slithering or moving across the driveway, headed towards the Sugar Shack where we suspect the portal is. Like outside next by the Sugar Shack. And then it's moving from our left to right as we're watching it on screen. And it's very small and kind of long, very low to the ground. And all of a sudden it just kind of poofs away. It doesn't walk out of the shot. It just poofs away. It like dematerializes or something. It was strange. I was like, oh, maybe because there's less, it's just picking it up less there. And so it's pixelated, blah, 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 right? Still weird. Still interesting and weird. Cut to a couple nights later, we do CE5. It's Eric Connor, Ed Brown, our new buddy, Billy, is there. Billy helps out around the property and very interested in the paranormal. So he was tagging along and helping us out and joining the investigation on most days and nights. Because I didn't even tell you what happened to him the very first day. I'll get back to that in a second. So the 4 of us, because Matt Jackson had to leave. This is the second to last night. And Cheryl Lynn Carter also had to leave. By the way, great having Cheryl Lynn Carter there. A psychic who joined the investigation for about 4 days, 4 nights. So we were getting all kinds of hits about in the portal area from her. She was picking up on all kinds of things, and then a very specific year, the year 1918 as well, and then an oil lamp burning down a house on the property. There was a lot of really cool, interesting stuff happening that Cheryl Lynn was picking up on at the property as well. And what was really cool was I didn't realize that psychics would use Bigfoot casting, print casting, the casts of prints. Well, I don't know why it didn't occur to me. I mean, because it's clairsentience. And so Cheryl Lynn does clairsentience. And so we got to witness that as well. It was pretty cool to try to pick up some information about the creature that left the footprint. It was really cool stuff. So unfortunately, Cheryl Lynn and Matt Jackson both had to leave at this point, but we did CE5. And it was a really nice, very centering, calming, beautiful night to do CE5. And we did not see anything in the sky. Nothing came that we could see dancing around, or no alien materialized on the back deck with us. It was pretty late at night when we were doing it. It was very cold out, but we had a fire going. So we hung out there as long as we could without freezing. And then it's just very peaceful and serene because, we do the crop circle sounds, then we do a 20-minute meditation that I guided us through, and we're out there just having a nice time. Then all of a sudden you hear this, what a couple of the guys believe was a large cat either murder something or be murdered. It was very quiet, and all of a sudden you hear that noise. And it was bone rattling because it wasn't that far away from us on this back deck that overlooks the hill going down into the woods. It was unnerving. I mean, it was, ugh. I mean, I'm not going to seek that noise out. And then we're just kind of, we're a little unnerved at that point. And we got eye shine from two critters right down the hill from us. We're getting all kinds of eye shine action the whole time from who I called them Larry and Mo. And we were just waiting for Curly to show up, but we think they were probably raccoons or armadillos, or they were probably raccoons. And because they looked like they were low to the ground, and they were in an area that was so thick of brush and trees and the devil's walking stick, which is like thorny branches and all kinds of stuff, that had to be kind of tiny, I would think. They had to be smaller creatures. I did catch eye shine of a raccoon on the last night, and as I was on it, and I was filming it, I think I caught this on camera on my cell phone even though I had to zoom in, but this raccoon, I had eye shine. It was just staring right at me. And it was like, I don't know, 100 yards away in the woods or whatever. And then it stands up. It was so wild. I was like, it just stood up. Raccoons can get up on their hind legs. It did that. So I'm like, oh my God, whatever eye shine I've got, it just stood up. Or from squatting or whatever, it was exhilarating, and we quickly realized it was raccoons after that. So, yeah. So, what I was telling you about this security cam footage of that creature that was very low to the ground, kind of slithering across the driveway or whatever, and then just kind of dematerializes into nothing like a poof. It was very strange. A couple nights later, Carolyn is inside with Bill, and Ed Brown's in there for some reason, and because we're outside on the side patio, getting ready to be outside, kind of doing an investigation out there, seeing if we can contact spirits or possibly try to find any information about the portal that is supposedly somewhere near that area. So we're going to try to activate it, or try to not agitate it, but trying to locate where it might be. And while they're inside, Carolyn sees a bunch of orbs on that same security footage of the Sugar Shack. And I'm not sure what your opinion on orbs might be, but orbs to me are very compelling. Balls of light are very compelling. The translucent ones and the balls of light, both of them. I understand the dust, the dirt, and the insect thing, but there's ways to be discerning when it comes to, witnessing or watching orb footage. You just can't believe everything's an orb, right? But I get it. So anyway, and so she's like, here, look, Ed. And so Ed takes the iPad and is watching the live feed of the orbs, and he sees a full body apparition materialize and then dematerialize shortly after, to where he freaked out, kind of, right? I mean, like, he's like, oh my God. And so unfortunately, we were not recording. The camera was not recording when that happened. But Ed came out, got on the walkie-talkie, alerted us. We all had walkie-talkies the whole time. And so we could always be in contact with one another. And he comes out, and I've never heard his voice the way I heard his voice when he was trying to describe and trying to wrap his brain around what he just saw, or what he thought he just saw. It was a profound experience for our buddy Ed Brown, which is a full body apparition is, that's level 1. That's top level. That's penthouse suite type paranormal stuff. You see a Bigfoot, you see a full body apparition, those are the top of the food chain in my book. Or seeing a UFO or an alien, right up there with it. So especially if you saw an ET. So soon after that, we're out on this side patio. Eric's down in the Sugar Shack. I am convinced a ball of light is floating towards us through the woods over this tree and headed right towards us. I start to get accelerated heart rate. I am so excited. And I get on the walkie. I tell Eric to, hey, man, or I tell Ed Brown. I was like, get on the walkie. Eric's doing a solo thing for his TikTok or whatever, but he needs to get up here. And so Ed is like, hey, man, we got something going on up here you might want to see. And he's like, okay, I'm doing this, maybe so. And so then I'm like, no. And he starts coming closer and closer and closer to us. And it's so bright and it's very dark outside. It's just so beautiful. I'm like, I start to like lose my breath a little bit because I'm like, oh my God, CE5 from last night. And the way it was at Post Town when we did CE5, and it was hours later, and the next day things went bonkers. Right after we did CE5, things went crazy, and I'm like, it seems to be indicative of the same thing happening. We did CE5 the night before, and then that last day was crazy. The last night was just jam packed and wild. So I get on the walkie-talkie and I'm like, Eric, you need to, I'm dropping F-bombs. I'm like, get up. And I forgot that Bill and Carolyn had a walkie-talkie inside so they could hear what was going on outside. And so I think Carolyn came out because she was worried about me because of what I just said over the walkie. And I was like, no, that was excitement, not fear. Although there was probably a little bit of fear tinged in because when you see something you've never seen before, it's okay to be a little afraid. And then the REM pod starts kind of going off, and we debunked that. That was walkie-talkie. Walkie-talkies will always send off REM pods, so you got to be careful about thinking crazy stuff's happening. If you're on a walkie around a REM pod, it'll definitely go off. The EMF will pick it up. So she was worried. She was sending it off with her energy. She goes inside after identifying it as a military drone, because it sounds like a helicopter, right? So here's how you can tell. Here's how she could tell it was a military drone, because it's small. It's not an airplane. You can tell by looking at it in the sky because it's not flying all that high. It sounds like a helicopter, but it's clearly not a helicopter because you can tell by looking at it that it's not a helicopter. And it sounds like a helicopter and doesn't look like a helicopter, and it's not a plane, so it's a drone. And it's a military drone that flies over there somewhat regularly, apparently. So we got that on camera. And the reason I believe that, and the reason I believe that it's a military drone, is because multiple days, seemingly, I don't know, 3 days, I think on multiple occasions, we have footage of a military helicopter flying over the property and then back over again. And when we were doing, it wasn't when we were doing C5. I'm trying to remember what night it was. One night we were out very late. It's 3 a.m. We're outside or whatever. And you hear a military helicopter, or you hear, we couldn't see it. You hear a helicopter kind of hovering and flying close by and not going away. So the military helicopter, or the helicopter, excuse me, I keep saying, we couldn't identify what the helicopter was flying around the property that night. And we could hear it loud and clear. We couldn't see it, but we could hear it. The only helicopters we ever saw the whole week were military helicopters. So that's why I'm assuming that also was a military helicopter. Anyway, so we're out on the side patio, during Ed has already seen a full body apparition on the security camera. We have seen a military drone fly over. Eric had a large bird bat type thing kind of attack him at the fly right him at the sugar shack. This is after like a few nights earlier, the one night Eric spent the night in the sugar shack, something shook the sugar shack, which we could not recreate the feeling when we tried to recreate what may have happened. By jumping up and down and things like that. Then I'm talking to Billy, and I have my back to the house, and I'm telling him, I don't know what I'm telling him some story. There seemed to be some theme that whenever I would be telling Billy a story or telling anyone a story, the paranormal phenomena would interrupt me as if it's like, we need him to shut up, so we're going to do something so he'll stop talking. Because I was interrupting people the investigators throughout the week. So I'd be like, no, we need to get that on camera. You need to stop talking about that. I need to film this, because I'm also thinking about making a documentary this whole time. So I have to think like the filmmaker and the investigator simultaneously, right? So it was a running joke that I wouldn't let anybody finish their stories. Anyway, and so then the paranormal phenomena would never let me finish my stories. Isn't that funny? That's like, I'm kind of just realizing it and like in the moment, but that shows you the cheeky nature and the trickster nature of paranormal phenomena. It has a sense of humor, and I think sometimes we forget that. And I feel like something just like a black shadow just went by the fucking window. Jesus Christ. That's not what we're looking for around here. I did. My whole body is chilled up right now. I have goosebumps. All the hair is straight up on my body, and I thought I saw it earlier, a little further out by the street, and I ignored it. And now it's like, you're gonna ignore me? I'll come closer. Is that what happened, or am I just seeing shit? I gotta tell you, I'm not here for that. I did a very clear cleanse, like, no hitchhiker effect. Hitchhiker effect has happened from this location, and we're not interested in that. So if something is here from Florida, I'm telling you right now, you are not to be coming into this house. You're not to be attached to me, and we have no interest in that, and you will go on your way. Thank you very much. Send you back from where you came. Okay, so I'm just kind of doing like a makeshift banishing statement while recording. No big deal. Hey, man, I don't think anything's here, man. I think we're okay, man. I think you drove for, like 12 or 13 hours straight, man, almost 800 miles, and you didn't really sleep all that much considering, man, and it's late, man. It's okay, man. Your eyes, man. Things happen, man. Windows, reflections, man. Okay, thank you, Todd. That actually made me feel better. Thank you, Todd. I appreciate that. Anyway, so I'm talking to Billy and telling him a story, and then I see in his face, so I'm telling him a story. I'm like, oh, yeah, man. So it's like, you just never really know what's going to happen on one of these things. And I'm like, oh my God, you see something, is what I say to him. And he just starts nodding. And he's like, he describes that he saw a bright white light on the front porch, underneath the front porch, like roof, kind of flash or move really quick. And I was like, holy shit. So I turn around and I'm looking, I'm like, right over there. And he's like, yeah. And I was like, oh, wow, that's really cool. And I keep looking. Meanwhile, he's looking away now. So he turns away. And then I see a very bright white light and a very tiny blue light, very, very tiny, underneath it, kind of blink in and out. And I thought it was like a security camera, one of the security cameras they have on the property, because they have a bunch of those nowadays. And the reason I thought it was a security camera is because of the two different lights, right? Because of the blue light part. So I thought it was that. And then, so I'm like, oh my God, I just saw it. It's like a security camera up there. And they're like, no, there's no security camera up there. There is a porch light, but it has like yellow and orange stained glass covering on it. This was bright white with a tiny pinpoint of blue light underneath it that just kind of blinked in and out. Clear as day. Clear as day. I have never seen anything like it. It happened. I know it. I wish I would have caught it on camera, and I did not, obviously. It was amazing. It was amazing. And then we were outside, getting pulled outside until nearly, I don't know, 2:30 in the morning all night. And patrons know, I posted a video blog that I filmed in the observation deck from the house as we were wrapping up, and we kept hearing banging on the house. Turns out we were able to debunk the banging. It was a gate because it was very windy. It wasn't very windy. It was a little windy. So whenever the gate would bang against the fence or something of the deck, it would make it feel like the center of the house was being hit. It was very strange. It's very weird. But we were able to debunk that. Anyway, there's a bunch of other stuff. I didn't even talk to you about the possible one or two possible, maybe three possible footprints. There's a possible handprint that we've got on film. and they were trying to figure out all kinds of stuff. I mean, it was so active, and not to mention the ITC sessions that were just going bonkers. We believe we have identified the location of another portal on the property, if not 2 additional portals, which would make 4, which Carolyn believes there's at least 4 on the property. She's never said that to me before. And then when I told her that the ITC device is giving us 5 or 6 portals, she goes, well, I think there's 4. And I was like, what? We've never discussed this before? This is bonkers. So we got a couple answers for the homeowners, which is the main reason we were there. We've got leads on possible other answers for them, which is the main thing we're doing. And I didn't even tell you about the dream I had. And I didn't even tell you about what Eric had happened to him at the RV on the second to last night, at the end of the night after CE5, which is bonkers. And I got to have him on the show to talk about it. I got to have everybody that was at the expedition on the show to talk about our experiences. But I'll tell you this, the experience that Eric had, it's got all the hallmarks of a you-know-what. And especially after doing CE5, it is wild and, maybe even a bit scary to think about. But Eric is doing great. Eric is fine. So don't worry about Eric. But yeah. Thank you for listening to the show. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope this was somewhat enjoyable. I mean, it's been a whirlwind of a week. Sorry I wasn't able to post an episode last week, but as you can tell, I was just knee deep in it. I was, sleeping about 5 hours a night. Because we'd finished all the research and stuff. We'd go to bed around 3. I couldn't sleep until 5 or 6 just because of everything in my head and just, being creeped out or whatever else. And I'd wake up at, 10 or 11 or whatever it was, so it's just, whoa, wiped out city over here. I love you though. And I hope you love yourself because you deserve it. Don't ever forget that. I hope to see you at a stand-up comedy show as soon as I book some more. I'll be back in the West Coast very, very soon. It turns out it looks like I'm going to be back on the West Coast very, very soon. I've also got updates about potential other trips, about doing some interviews. I might be traveling to do some interviews that I think are going to be just Harvey Wallbangers. They're going to be monster interviews. And not to mention a bunch of other great interviews coming up. And I got to get over to Columbus before I head back west and go see the boys over at Strange Road. I got to see Mikey and Bub over there. And we got to talk about this trip. So don't forget to check out the Strange Road every Monday at live streams at 8 p.m. You can find their YouTube. Oh, man. What a trip. What a trip. Wow. RyanSingerComedy.com. That's the website. That's the hub. Ryan on Instagram. Ryan Singer Comedy on TikTok. And we'll talk soon. And I'll see you soon, hopefully. And if not, I'll just see you at the watering hole on the astral plane.